Hey,
Hey,
how's it going?
good. I wonder if it'll just be us.
Quite possible. I'm trying to figure out the lighting situation.
I know. I'll be surprised if Rudy doesn't come running in at some point, but
Oh, you gotta call him. I need to see him.
okay. I'm gonna take you with me.
Nice.
So did y'all get much snow?
About 3 inches, maybe.
Okay.
How about
The
you guys?
goats are good with it?
Oh yeah, they haven't come out of their shelter much. We had to go get them to draw them out because there's nothing to eat on the ground because it's all. Oh, that big
Look
boy.
at this log. Rudy, are you alive?
I'm just sleeping. What, mom?
Snow day, Mom.
We don't get out. What are we doing? Where are
No.
we sleeping,
He
Mom?
was funny in it. He was like, we took him out this morning and last night he was not into it when it was falling. But this morning he loved it. So
Very nice. Oh.
I know. And he's from DC. We adopted him from a couple that was breaking up in DC. So I know he's seen snow, but yeah.
Very nice. He's adorable.
I know.
But
He's a sweetie.
I'll take you on the
Yeah, who you got with you?
Atherton show. I got Ziva right here. Baby.
Hey, Diva. Oh my God, your eyes.
I'm a pretty husky.
Eyes are gorgeous.
All right, who else? Oh, we got the Kit Kat.
Oh, hey, Kit Kat.
Yes, my name is Dick Kitty because I don't care.
Do you still have your Christmas tree up?
Lily. Oh yeah. I told Tracy, we're not gonna be those people. This will not continue into March. And I got okay, yeah, I'll do something about it.
I love it.
So this is
Oh,
Lincoln's, and that's
my
Bug.
Gosh,
Bug.
look at y'all.
And then
I like Bug, how it looks like he's wearing little socks.
yes. And then here's our sleeper, little Maya Bean. Hey baby.
Oh my gosh.
What's up, baby?
She's like lost in the pillows.
Yeah, she's like, get away, Papa. I'm doing my own thing. Hey, Raj.
Hey.
We're just doing the family animal tour. I don't know if you guys can see.
Oh,
Looking out, so the goats are out there. Looks like they're still.
man.
No one's out of the thing yet.
I don't blame them.
Wow.
I was out this morning getting rid of all the snow so they could at least get some grass, get to the hay. So,
That looked like still snow coming down in the background.
coming out off the roof.
Okay.
The wind's blowing a little bit, so it's getting blown off the roof.
Cool.
But yeah, so I think it's
Good.
a little bit past 1. How many people were on the email chain?
There were the 2 guys that were at our table, and then the 2 women that had signed up.
Gotcha.
So, and then the 3 of us.
And you said Martha said that she wasn't going to be able to make it.
Mm-hmm. But she definitely wants to be involved.
Okay.
All right.
And it looks like, I don't know if my recording button is beeping, flashing.
Yeah.
So, recording, I guess.
Yeah.
So, our dogs
I
are
would-
with us.
That's right.
So I'm guessing we can play this for anyone else, or anyone else can go back and look at it, or we could, depending on what we do, or decide upon, we'll probably have another meeting because I think the 3 of us are on the same page. Was kind of what we want to do. So I guess Kate and I met the other day, and we started looking through service definitions to start looking at the treatment aspect. And we found that for every enhanced service, SAOP, SACOT, ACT, and there's one other one.
CS.
The residential programs.
Yeah.
The desired outcome, primary, was abstinence. And then secondary outcomes, all the same. So I was like, well, that's stupid. And
What were they saying, like, for some of the secondary outcomes?
Very general psychosocial, behavioral, vocational, like that psychological symptoms improve, that psychosocial engagement is improved. So it's the biopsychosocial, with abstinence being the key and biopsychosocial being secondary outcomes.
That's not what we're. It's the same thing I found with prevention. I found. Let me show y'all real quick. I looked at a lot of different things, and here's one thing from the Surgeon General's report that he put out maybe a year or two ago.
Mm-hmm.
Here's some policy interventions. There's some outcomes, kind of, sort of. The rest of this whole document is a lot of different programs, evidence-based, that they recommend. And I'm not going to go through them, but so a lot. Another thing I looked at, those are just the names of the programs and like a meta-analysis on them. That's really all that was.
Right.
Now, here's what I found from, daggone it, where'd this come from? Right here, from an NIH publication. The best synopsis of anything that I found. I really looked, I looked at a lot of crap. I don't mean that in a bad way. I looked at a lot of stuff. And so I really found generic, kind of like what you were describing. Abstinence to treatment would be something like, well, let's enhance protective factors and reduce risk factors. Okay. Let's reduce initial substance use in the first place. All right. Let's train the schools, kids, on life skills, family-based prevention, like here, skills training. And maybe the class I'm getting to is kind of influencing me right now. I'm taking that design and rehab class. All these sound like process outcomes, like in the middle outcomes.
Right.
Like going to all your SAOPs, in my opinion, is not really an outcome. That's a process objective. I want them all to complete treatment. Well, what does completing a SAOP class do? And it's kind of like, what's the next step?
Right.
What, should they get a job? Is that the outcome you really want? So kind of along those lines.
I keep trying to scroll up. That's why I'm laughing. I'm sitting there, I'm like, why won't this damn thing scroll? It's because it's on your computer.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, what is going on?
I'm sharing the screen.
Yeah.
So
I'm thinking if
I can send this to everybody.
Yeah, I think that'd be good. I'm thinking outcome is probably not the best word. Maybe it's, how do you measure effectiveness? How do we measure effectiveness per sector? So we're getting away from, like, abstinence rate of abstinence will be one measure of effectiveness. But if that's the only one, it's a poor system. There needs to be other, because that's ultimately what we're looking at. We're not looking at, predefined, control group based. We're not doing legit research. We just want to know, how do we know clinically, not statistically, clinically, are we making a difference? And how is that defined in each sector? And then, so that I think is what we should be looking at or looking for gathering. So if you go ahead and pull that document back up, Rich, because I liked a few of those things from a prevention side. So how do we know if we're effective? Are protective factors being enhanced, and are risk factors being reduced? That, I don't know. I mean, my guess is you could measure that somehow. I mean, but that would be in this area for which, the client served is actually going to be the locale, not people. Are protective factors increased in the community to which this program, whatever one we're evaluating, is serving? So like Pitt County Coalition on Substance Use, I think they changed their name. I can't remember what they changed it to. They'd be looking at obviously Pitt County. So we would evaluate or get them to tell us, what is your rate of increase, or have you enhanced protective factors? Have you reduced risk factors? Prevention. The hardest part is going to be prevention is a separate beast. There is no baseline of, I don't know, let me say it that way. I don't know if there's a baseline or a defined, a reduction of risk factors or an increase or enhancement of protective factors past this benchmark is good. Below this benchmark is not good. So so it'd be descriptive. These programs have enhanced protective factors, and I don't even know if it's a yes/no versus I don't even know if it is numerical, or if it's range, or if it's on a range based versus a yes or no answer. How well, and that's subjective. So that's gonna be hard. But then again, that if that's one of their outcomes, that's part of our job, is to figure out how do we, if this is an outcome that is meaningful to them, that they want to know, are protective factors being enhanced, and that's how they are personally self-evaluating, or the prevention field would evaluate them. Then finding a way to measure that and report it is important.
Let me look at the next page with this. Such as, there's, as you can imagine, there's a lot of programs out there, and that other document probably had 30 that, at least at the federal level, they were endorsing as evidence-based.
Right.
I found it difficult through looking through all this stuff. What is a risk factor and what is a protective factor? You can have a lot of stuff defined in there as far as reducing risk, enhancing protective. Well, what is in this little bullet point? How do you know you're doing well at family bonding?
Right.
I can predict or evaluate how well we're doing in completing a program based on family bonding. How are you going to measure the outcome of my family is bonded well, therefore I've reduced that risk? I don't know. Components of a program, this is some of the things that they all have in common. Okay, now this could be a study habit, academic support. That would be a protective factor. How are you going to measure that? Well, it's within the program. Well, how do you measure the program's effectiveness? That's why I'm saying it seems kind of along what you were saying, is it's the outcome being, are these things being done in the first place in school?
Right.
Are we even doing these?
That, and I Googled did a quick Google search of prevention outcomes, and they have it broken down: process measures versus outcome measures. What we're talking about are process, and the outcome measures are really looking at, let's see, so prevention programs for middle and or junior high and high school students being offered, process measure, yes or no. Outcome,
Right.
what is the impact of, oh, there he is. He said, I'm awake, mama.
Yeah.
What are the substance use rates? What's the rate change from 2019 to 2020 in the use of substances, reported use of substances for that age group? So how effective was the prevention? And this is where prevention is the hardest. There's no direct correlation because there's everything else that happens, or life occurs, but that's one way to evaluate how has the community changed, and questionable as to how much of that you can attribute to the prevention intervention or not. Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, so that's kind of where we're at, is defining how do we know what is measured to define success. And I think that's kind of our new direction, is for each of these sectors going through and deciding what are some measures or indicators that would determine or reflect success or lack of success in that program.
I can't get any of my other stuff to come up. Anyway.
So,
yeah, lowered use. That's getting into, remember old uppers, downers, all arounders textbook?
not too old, we still use it.
Yeah. It's like one of the three I kept. In the back of it is prevention, obviously.
Yeah.
And I had meant to go to the office and get it and copy or whatever. But there's some good information in the back of that textbook, because either I didn't look in all the right places, or what I found was what I just showed y'all as far as what the Fed is looking at.
Right.
Like NIDA, what is NIDA looking at? What is HHS looking at? And that's what I found, and it kind of matches what was in the back of Anaba Cohen. Because as you know, you could look at primary prevention, which is don't let them use drugs in the first place. And then secondary would be, well, just kind of curtail the use a little bit. Let's reduce the use rates, the prevalence of it. Third would be tertiary, would be, well, they need to get some serious treatment, send them off. We need to curtail or mitigate the addiction. And they broke it down into 3 levels. Yet, I know I only was charged with prevention, but to y'all's point, if we're looking at all the treatment, then yeah, we're looking at every bit of it.
Right.
Don't start in the first place, reduce it from getting worse, and then when it is worse, fix it. Well, you know what I mean, treat it.
Yeah.
And reduce the rates and increase abstinence. Like initial use rates, we could look at that, the National Survey Drug Use Households, I think it is, and see how many are using for that first time in the first place. That would be an outcome of prevention, primary prevention. I agree. It's not cutting. It's not easy. It's not quite black and white.
Right. Do we list? Where was that list of outcomes? I'm sorry, list of domains. That was on the agenda, right?
Yeah.
I've got that folder. You got it, Kate?
It's somewhere up here. Like this guy.
Yeah, you guys are better than
Yeah.
me. I left mine in my office. So we have let's do this. Outlook's OneDrive.
Can you see that?
Yeah, how do I make your yeah. What is the best? Because for us, OneDrive would be fine, but
Like Google Docs or something.
Google Docs. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Kate, do you want? Are either of you better at Google Docs than I suck? So than each other.
I'm not great either. I'm good at responding, but I don't know if I've ever actually created one.
Rich, have you ever created one?
Let me I could create it.
You want to create a table that has all the sectors that are on that listed?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, what can I share screen again? No, I'm just gonna do this live. Like if I go into, I think this is my regular, Google Drive, and I'll set up what do you want to call it? I'm gonna set up a Google Drive folder.
Yeah, call it don't put ECU, just put RAI research. What were we? Not tables, research group?
Outcome and research group.
Outcome and research
Working group.
There you go. Okay.
Okie dokie. Now when there it is. And then what I'm gonna do is this thing's slow, man. All right, let me see if it. All right, I'm not on ECUs. So what's your email? Atherton.
W at ecu.edu.
Okay. Atherton W, and is it
MacDonald M 19 at students.ecu.edu.
I'll share it with myself. And I don't know their emails right off. I'll get them.
We can add them in later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, there. All right, now we got a Google Drive.
Nice.
Send the link. Anybody?
None of us have Google accounts.
No.
All right. So, all right, y'all got it. So there we are.
All right.
So I'll throw in those documents I got, and I'll create a table, a little lickety split of the outcomes on this graphic here.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. And then as we maybe make a Two. Let's do three. 3 columns. Oops, shoot. What did I do? Hold on. There we go. 3 columns. So the name of the sector.
Yeah.
Person responsible. Domain or outcome measures or
Mhm.
measures of effectiveness. Let's call it measures of effectiveness.
Like that.
Like a Word document or Excel?
Word. Yes.
All right. All right, I'll do that.
Okay.
Yep.
Um,
For the PHP, it was daggone it. I'm trying to find that. For member physicians help program.
mhm.
Where is that? Is it this one? This is what their deal is. Right there. So that's as close as I got to the word outcome, goal, or whatever. I just cut and paste from their website.
Yeah. My guess is, although we hate the term or hate the simplicity, return to work, i.e., most likely abstinence, or under MAT, so either medication assisted or abstinence, and return to work is probably going to be their primary outcome because that's their primary job is, well, keeping the workplace safe and ensuring that those that, are they successful in helping the provider return to work would be, do they literally return to work or not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there may be additional, ways in which they're evaluated. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's, and as I'm saying this repeatedly, I think it's different enough of a spin where, let's kind of revisit our sectors and go back to this idea of if we wanted to know if they're effective, if a PHP is effective or not, what are we looking at to define that effectiveness?
Okay.
And then that is what we mark down as measurement.
All right.
Now, what I plan to do is go to Jim Michael and say, hey, you're a collegiate recovery. How do you measure your effectiveness?
Yeah.
And try to support it with literature, but essentially, reach out to people we know and say, hey, you're in this field. Treatment is different because it's vast and I think it's more defined, maybe overly defined, so we'll have to simplify it. But all these other sectors, I think, are very niche. And my hope is there's some commonality, but that may be a struggle that we face. Like ECU's collegiate recovery, they're trying to do 5 different things. So their mission or their goals are to enhance or decrease the stigma of addiction on campus. Whereas NC State's collegiate recovery doesn't really care about stigma on campus. They're looking at something else. So they're defining their personal effectiveness differently. We're going to have to negotiate what we're going to do with that. And that's where I think going to the literature and finding commonalities is going to help, but kind of getting a starting off place. Yeah.
How do you measure that?
Stigma on campus. Give us the data you collected on your survey for whether or not the stigma on campus reduced. We don't measure that. We get from the collegiate recovery board, and that's the thing is, I don't see us going and doing effectiveness studies for these places.
Right.
It's going to be, hopefully all 12 or 13 collegiate recovery programs in North Carolina are have effectiveness or outcome measures that they're doing annually or maybe more often. And we're asking them for that data. And then ideally it may be, here are 5 of the 12 or 13 domains or outcome measures that you all have. We want 4 because those 4 are common between all 12 or 13 programs. So we can evaluate you against against the group based on these outcomes. Then the question is going to be: Are those the common outcomes actually meaningful, or are they the less common ones that are actually most meaningful? We have to negotiate that. So this stage of defining may then lead to getting the collegiate recovery programs in North Carolina to buy into this is an important outcome. And then we wait a year or two while they measure the data, or we help them come up with a scheme to measure the data for that outcome. So we really don't have anything to report on. We've just created the measurement so that we can start collecting that data. So that might be a part of what we're doing with per sector, depending on what the issue is or what is the current reality within each of the sectors. Does that make sense? Cool.
Yeah. Have we divided all these sector categories out amongst us 5 or 6, or just us 3?
Pretty sure.
I wrote down that recovery courts was Joe,
Right.
and EAP with Joe, and you were prevention and professional monitoring.
Yeah.
And war treatment, and then collegiate recovery. I don't know. Jermichael.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think hopefully Joe will join back up. I say we move forward with the ones that we've assigned ourselves, and then we double back. And if we have to, as this group, or as our group shakes out with others that are able to attend, whoever's going to be consistent, which again, I know not making one meeting doesn't define interest level and all that, but
right.
I want to make sure that we are the work is getting done, so that it's being assigned to active participants. So as we shake things out, I think probably starting with like 2 or 3, and then going to the next 2 or 3, and at that time seeing who's around, who's able, and then as we keep going, we grab from the labor that we have active at the moment. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So let's start with that table. Part of me wants to leave treatment to the end because that's how do you guys feel? How do you guys feel about deferring prevention for a while? There's a lot of groups, but I don't know. I off the top of my head, I don't see a clean.
Mm-hmm.
What's the word? Communal. That's technically the right word, but that's not what I mean. Shared. A shared outcome that is measurable between prevention groups. I think it's identification and strategies implemented for local conditions. Yes, hopefully they're all working off of that model.
Mm-hmm.
What those strategies are going to be 100% different because it's community based. It's what the community is doing. So really, we're stuck with: are you doing it or not? And I'm stuck on the other than measuring the influence or kind of what a prevention program was aimed at reducing or increasing. We're not going to know, and then the validity as to did this intervention actually cause that change or a large majority of the variance of that change. I don't know is easily measured. So maybe put that one on the back burner. We'll start with PHPs, collegiate recovery. Let's do medication-assisted treatment. So we'll do one specific form of treatment.
All right.
Rich, if you want to dig deeper into PHPs, see if you can get in touch with any.
Let me also do clergy.
Okay.
I meet with one next Friday, and
Okay.
I'll pick their brain and say reach out to all the dioceses, and I'll just ask for a favor, and I think she would do that.
Okay, perfect.
Some local ones here that I know.
Yeah, and when you ask the question, try to make it what you do, but even beyond, more than just what you guys look at. What would you say is the shared or agreed upon outcomes that clergy look for when working with people with addiction, or when engaging people with addiction, or engaging addiction as a topic? What is kind of the agreed upon? This is what we all do, not just what that one clergyman or woman is doing. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. It'll be a good kind of entry point, and I don't want to know just what one parish does.
Right. Yeah. Because again, the ultimate goal of what we're looking at is defining it, but then when we go to research it, being able to measure or research it across groups.
Okay.
So if one group is doing something that no one else is doing, then you can't measure it across groups. So we need that reliable or consistent measurement.
All right, so we got professional monitoring organizations, me, EAP, Joe, MAT. Is that the both of you?
Yeah.
All right.
And then I'll take collegiate recovery.
All right, collegiate recovery. I'm just looking down the list here. I'll do clergy. First responders, EMS.
No, we don't have to do that.
Yeah, I didn't really. Criminal justice, law enforcement.
Let's do drug courts based off that.
All right, recovery courts. I'll call it
Recovery
drug
court,
courts. All right, Joe. And I'll scratch off criminal justice and law enforcement.
For now, yeah.
Government, all levels.
Yep. Cross that one out.
Yeah. Researchers.
Yeah, cross that one out.
And other.
Well, what's
Last
some of the
one.
other, there's a few other ones, weren't there?
Well, friends and family, persons in recovery, other.
Put peer support on there
Okay.
because that might go under treatment, maybe. But I think specifically the utilization of peer support, I think it might actually be a complement to treatment. So it might not have its own measurements, but I want to look at that a little bit more.
All right, so we got
All right,
one,
so
two.
let's start with those on the list, and then we'll take those four that we've decided. So I'll take one, Kate and I will take the other, and then Rich, if you take those two, we'll start there, and fill in what we can, and maybe what day's the April 3rd? Maybe March 6th. We reconvene.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that'll work. That's 2 weeks. Are we good with that?
Yeah. Does 1 o'clock work?
Yeah.
Think so. I don't have my calendar in front of me, unfortunately. Unprepared, but I think so.
Let me know if it doesn't work.
Okay.
And we'll figure something out. Yeah, so I said we start there, just kind of start chipping away, and then obviously between the three of us, we're around. So, Kate, if you want to start the process, I was just looking at my Tuesday's calendar, and it is busy this coming Tuesday.
Okay.
So I probably won't be able to connect with you, but I'll get with you throughout the week next week, and we can chip away at. Let's see, you're in Navigate Monday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what Monday looks like. Monday the 24th. Oh. Yeah. Do you class at 2?
Yes.
Never mind. We'll connect.
We'll connect, totally.
Tuesday are nightmare. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are pretty good. Worst case, I'll get you on Friday.
Okay.
Either during some downtime at Navigate or right after.
Kate, are you able to, you did a good job on like prompting. Are you able to email out another link?
Yep,
Or is
I can do that.
it already, I don't know if it's Deborah sent this one. I think she's probably the one recording this, so she'll look at it.
Right.
Maybe not.
Do you want to email Deborah and say we've scheduled our next meeting?
I'll do that.
Do you want us to take over? And we'd be probably using WebEx through ECU. Do you want us to take over creating meetings, or is she going to continue to schedule ongoing meetings as we set them up? And see, depending on what she says, let me know. And if she's going to set it up, great. If she says, no, I want you guys to set it up, then I'll get with you on how we can go about setting things up.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the WebEx thing on my laptop, so it doesn't matter if we do that.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Both are just, I think, a quick plug in download if you don't have it. So, and I want to say ECU might actually have a Zoom. The one thing I like about Zoom, if you didn't know, my battery's about to die. Under your video, if you go to video properties, you can actually go to touch up. literally fix your face for you.
That's you can get rid of the hair on my head.
I was waiting on a meeting. I was doing a research meeting with people from for animal assisted stuff. There's two of them, and they were both running late. So I had never even heard of Zoom before. So I'm just like clicking around. I noticed under my camera, I'm like, enhance image or whatever. So I'm like,
Yeah.
that doesn't even make sense. So I started doing it. I'm like, oh my God, it just filtered me. It filtered my face.
That's funny. I did not know that.
How sad is that our video conferencing software has to allow us to present ourselves with I want to use the right word, video settings, a touch up my appearance. Yeah, so this is the real me.
Yeah.
And that's my touch up.
Now I'm doing
Touch up appearance.
I just pressed it to get rid of my big forehead.
I was going to say, some wrinkles you can't touch up, ma'am. Sorry.
No.
Too big of a job for Zoom to handle.
That's not going to work, Richie.
I think it said go to Photoshop, do it yourself.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys for connecting on a snowy Friday.
Love it.
I'll connect with you guys, obviously before we meet next, but let me know. Just stay in touch if you have any issues. I think the theme that we're going to continue to rock with is we consider it an outcome measure if it answers the question of how do you define effectiveness for this sector. And so that's a phrase we're going to use to think about what are these outcomes that we're going to select.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys enjoy your weekend. I'll probably see you guys around the office next week.
Sounds
All right.
good. Thanks.
Awesome. You guys have a good one.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Kate.